Alright, so this is everything you're going to need. I know it looks crazy. The main thing you're going to need to water cool a Raspberry Pi is your Raspberry Pi. So this is a Raspberry Pi 4. You guys know what a Raspberry Pi 4 is. It's a single board computer, very popular. Alright, so the next item, this is a res pump combo. It's got a pump and a reservoir. This is Thermaltake, and it's very old. I had this for many years. And this is basically going to circulate the water with a pump. So basically what this does is it has a pump on the bottom and it circulates the water. So this is the rad. This is basically what's going to cool the liquid. The way it works is the pump pumps in the hot water in here. This part comes out here and cools it. And then the cool liquid comes out through here. So that's a rad. You're going to need one of these if you want this to work. Alright, so this is the Pico power supply. This is what's going to power the entire build. This thing's very cool. I've been using this in all my projects over the years. It's very cool. I'm going to leave a link to this in the description. Highly recommend it. This is going to give us all the power we need to power the Raspberry Pi and the pump and everything else. So this is the plug that's going to connect to the Pico power supply. It's got a button right here. It's going to allow us to turn on and off the pump. So these are fittings. These are what's going to allow us to connect the tubes onto the radiator and all the other stuff. So bunch of fittings, you're going to need these. I'll leave a link to these in the description. Alright, so this is a water block. This is the water block that's going to go on top of the Raspberry Pi chip. It's got thermal adhesive strips right here. So basically the way it works is you attach it to here on the Raspberry Pi, right? One tube goes into the cold and the other tube goes into the hot. It transforms the cold to hot and then it cools the chip. So that's how that works. This one right here, this is going to allow us to transform the big tube that's going to come out through here. The reason we need this is to convert it into this little hose right here. The little hose goes onto this fitting right here and it converts everything. So this will convert to big hose and to little hose, the way you want to use it. Now this is your normal big tubing. I forgot the size of it. I'll leave the size in the description. And this is your normal tubing that'll go like right here with the fittings. Now this is the smaller tubing. Again, I don't remember the size. I'll leave the link to the size in the description. This will allow us to connect the smaller items. The final thing we're going to need is this adhesive. This is a thermal transfer adhesive. This is basically going to allow us to stick onto this, then stick this part onto here. Then it's going to thermal transfer the heat from the chip onto this here. All right, as you can see, I did some work. So what I did was I cut the pieces to size and I fit the pieces exactly where I want them to go. So right here, the way it's going to work, this is going to connect to here. This tube is going to connect to here, right? Then this part is going to convert the big tube into the smaller tube, which is going to connect to here, right? So the other part of the tube, the other end of the fitting, is going to connect to here. So then this is going to take the water, pump it to this big end here. This big end is going to go to this other end of the rad right here. So that's how the loop's going to go. And I'll see you guys in a second. Alright, so I set everything up. Basically, this part here of the rad connects to this here, where it's going to split to from the big tube to the little tube. And I close the other ones off with caps. So I have one going to here, the other one going to the water block of the Raspberry Pi. So now the small tube of the other end of the Raspberry Pi, right, the water block of that, goes into the other one that converts it now it's going to convert it from small to big. So the other one was converting it from big to small. Now this one's converting it, and I have the cap in the end here to from small to big. It's going to go into this here. This part goes into the radiator. The other end of the pump goes into the radiator right here. So that's how that loop runs, and it keeps cycling until this part gets cool. So the chip is going to stay cool all the time. So basically, another thing I want to tell you guys is we're not using a fan in this loop. There's no need to use a fan. It's overkill. This loop itself is overkill. You really don't ever need to do this to a Raspberry Pi. It doesn't overheat that bad. So I want to also say to you guys before you flame me in the comments, I know this is a waste of time. I know this is a waste of money. I know you're not supposed to water cool a Raspberry Pi. That's not the point. The point of this is to show you guys an entertaining video of me doing it. And that's pretty much it. So now all we have to do is set up the electronics, the power supply, and fill up the loop. And then we're going to test it out. All right, so I got the whole loop filled with liquid here, and I got the power supply connected. This is the Pico power supply. I connected it to this pump here. Then I also connected this switch, so when I hit the switch, the pump should run and the fluid should run through this whole loop here. So let's try it out. It's working. It's going through the entire loop. Very cool. I haven't done this in a while. I've water cooled quite a few Raspberry Pis, but every time I do it, I'm amazed. And I know you guys again gonna roast me and fillet me about that. This is stupid and you're wasting your money. I know. Obviously I know that you're not supposed to water cool a Raspberry Pi. It makes no sense. All right, so this is the end of this video. The next video, we're going to do some benchmarks to see how this actually performs, comparing it to another Raspberry Pi 4 without any water cooling. Like the video, please give me a like. This is Rustam from OutSmithTech.com, and thank you guys for watching.